Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Dubious Writings Part 5. And the two tools are a Bible and your attention. So we'll continue. We'll start here with the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 26, verse 57 and 58. Then those who had seized Jesus led him to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had gathered. And Peter, following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest, and going inside, he sat with the guards to see the end. Before this event of interrogation of Jesus by the high priest and the elders, we know that Jesus was arrested, and actually one of the disciples unsheathed his sword and cut off somebody's ear, one of the guards' ear. But here we read that Peter, who is one of the disciples, actually, according to the Gospel of John, he is actually the disciple that slit off someone's ear. He's back here in the courtyard with the same guards he just fought, sitting down with them to listen to the judgment being passed on his master. It looks like a contradiction. But I'll skip to the same chapter 26, verse 6 to 9. Let's listen to this. Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl came up to him and said, "You were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before them all, saying, "I do not know what you mean." And when he went out to the entrance, another servant girl saw him, and the story goes on and on. So actually he was supposed to deny 3 times. That's why that story, turned out the way it did. Now, let's analyze this. Jesus was just arrested, and this guy who is being interrogated by passers-by and people who are also in the courtyard about being an associate of Jesus is just let to go scot-free. I mean, they did not mob him and drag him up to the front to let the high priest interrogate him as well, but they let him go. It did not cause any ruckus whatsoever. He just denied and they said, "Okay, bye. You're not one of them." And actually, this is the guy that actually cut off somebody's ear, and the guards did not recognize him. Now, the writer of this gospel had to have a pen and a pad to write down the conversation between these passers-by and Peter. So he was actually going back and forth from the conversation between Jesus and the high priest to the gate where we have Peter and the passers-by. It had to be some really hectic job. But when we go to the same chapter, actually the last verse of the chapter, which is 75, it reads, "And Peter remembered the sayings of Jesus, 'Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times.' And he went out and wept bitterly." So basically, the writer here knows exactly what was in the mind of Peter. Was it Peter who wrote this gospel? Or was he running an interview while he was doing this biography, quote and unquote, of Jesus? There might have been an instance where maybe you're sitting with somebody and they stare into space and suddenly laugh or smile. You might want to inquire why you're laughing. It's happened to me many times. But if they don't share with you why they're laughing, then you probably will never know. But this guy knows the reason why why Peter remembered, he knows exactly what Peter remembered that caused him to cry, which was denying Jesus 3 times. Is this an eyewitness account, really? Or is something else? You decide. Going on to the next chapter, chapter 27, verse 3. Listen to this. Then when Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he changed his mind and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. They said, What is that to us? See to it yourself. And throwing down the pieces of silver into the temple, he departed, and he went and hanged himself. So pretty much this is just a description of the exchange between Judas and the council of elders. Now, this was supposed to be a conspiracy between Judas and the chief priest, right? But somehow, some way, they called this biographer, who is the writer of the Gospel of Matthew, into the meeting and said, "Oh, you're the biographer? Okay, take down these notes." And they told him exactly what they said, what a dialogue was between them and Judas. Because one day people are going to read this and know exactly what happened between us and Judas. So write it down, I guess. In the same chapter 27, verse 57, listen. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who also was a disciple of Jesus. Wait a minute. Of the 12 disciples of Jesus, you will see their names in the video description. None of them is Joseph of Arimathea. So pretty much what this man did, this character appeared out of the blue to pay Pilate to get the body of Jesus and bury the body in his own tomb, and disappeared after that. Never heard of him before, never heard of him after. Joseph of Arimathea. Now, according to what I'm reading here, the next verse says, which is verse 58, he went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen shroud, and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut in the rock. So, basically what I just said, he appeared from nowhere, but now this guy, the writer here, is claiming that he's a disciple. No. We know that Judas hanged himself. Peter watched the trial. So the remaining 10, none of them is called Joseph of Arimathea. So where did this come from? I'm running out of time. There will be a part 6 and more parts after that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.